So if you don't want to be seen, please switch your camera off now. So here we go with our first guest speaker of the day. Now we're doing something a little bit different today, and I am very, very excited about this. Andrew Barnton, the name speaks for itself. He's a celebrity hairdresser, well-renowned. His career spans decades and across all areas of the industry. He is, as it says here, hairdressing royalty, and I am really, really pleased that we have finally managed to get him on our collective. We are in the process, we've embarked on a beautiful new journey with Andrew Barnton, the creator and founder of Able, and I am going to get up close and personal with Andrew today and find out all about him, ask him all the pressing questions about his career, and also welcome questions from you guys. But before we go into that, Mark, if you would like to just show everybody a very short presentation from Andrew. With your sound on.
I'm Andrew Barton, celebrity hairdresser, and welcome to my working world. Able is a comprehensive hairdressing scholarship program to help hairdressing students and apprentices to be the best they can be and enhance their hairdressing training delivered in further education colleges bilingually. We created beehives, bobs and blow dries, an exhibition telling the story of British hairdressing. And how I can make it now, and how I can bring it to life and give it a new narrative. As a hairdresser, every day I work with hair, I'm amazed by the power that grey hair has, not only to transform how someone looks, but how they feel about themselves too. It's witnessing this excitement and emotion that inspires me every day to create beautiful hair designs. It's why I love being a hairdresser. My work has led me to the four corners of the world and started with a formal apprenticeship in my native Yorkshire. I'm proud of my humble roots, excuse the fun, and never did I imagine that my work as a hairdresser would see me collect glittering industry awards, that I'd work backstage at the fashion capitals of the world with celebrity in their dressing rooms, creating hairstyle for the pages of glossy magazines, or indeed on national television as a makeover guru. It's all a far cry from my humble beginnings. But ultimately, I'm a hairdresser who loves doing hair, making people feel happy in the salon. Welcome to my world.
Thank you. First of all, apologies for some sound issues there. We will be making sure that we do send this out to everybody as well, so that you can hear it properly. But enough of that for now. Good morning, Andrew, and welcome to the VTCT Hair and Barbering Online Collective. How the devil are you today?
I'm very good, despite the downpour going off outside my home in London. Good morning, everybody. It's fabulous to be here, and thank you for joining us this morning. And VTCT, thank you so much for asking me to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, Andrew, we're going to get real up close and personal here. I'm going to ask you all the pressing questions that I know will be really kind of interesting for people to hear. So let's just go right back to the beginning, because I said you'd been here for decades. Now, when I say decades, I mean 3 decades. I was going to say 30 decades there. Tell us how it all began. Where did your hairdressing career start? How did you start in this industry?
Well, you've made me feel a bit nervous straight away, kind of talking about asking pressing questions and getting deep and dirty. You know, my hairdressing career, where did it start? Well, I'll go slightly further back, and like for many hairdressers, not all, but for many hairdressers, my school, I wasn't academic at all, and I left school without any qualifications. Every report went home to my parents and said, Andrew would be a great scholar if only he stopped talking and smoking around the back of the bike sheds. Not much has changed. But the one thing that I was good at was art, and anything remotely creative. You know, I enjoyed needlework, I enjoyed woodwork, metalwork, anything slightly creative and aesthetically involved turned me on. So I started at art college, and what I wanted to be was a surface pattern designer, designing fabrics and materials. And I come from a working class family in Yorkshire. My native hometown is Barnsley. And you know, there wasn't much money in the household. I grew up on a council estate. And I think just that working class lad in me had had enough of being at school, and I just wanted to earn a wage each week so I could go out around the town on a weekend with nice clothes on and go to the disco smelling of Kouros. And so I got a job in a hairdressing salon. So it was never ever a journey that I'd thought about. It just seemed like a nice place to work. And this was back in the 80s. And I was the last of those indentured apprentices. So my parents had to pay for me to train to be an apprentice. And I hated it for the first 3 to 6 months. And my dear darling mum, who's passed, who was my best friend, made me go back every day because she'd paid for me to be an apprentice. And then very quickly, my nose turned, and I started to realize that hairdressing, I had become a surface pattern designer. I was just working with a different material and a different fabric, and that being hair. And as we know, with hair, you can change its shape, its texture, its color, its quality, all of those things. So I started to get really excited about being a hairdresser, and I was very grateful for the humble start in that it was a very formal apprenticeship. The woman that trained me insisted that I had to learn how to finger wave and pin curl and barrel curl and roller set and all those traditional skills, where if anybody's my age, you'll remember around that time, all I wanted to do was scrunch hair and finger dry it. So I'm so grateful for that start. And, you know, now I work a lot in further education colleges, and it's a great passion of mine. And I often recall the hairdressing lecturer that taught me at Barnsley College. Her name was Mrs. Schofield. And you know, I still tremble at the thoughts of Mrs. Schofield because she was so strict. But again, she was a huge foundation start point for my career, and I used those women that taught me really on as a motivation and an inspiration still today.
That's amazing. And I think that this community is made up predominantly of hairdressing and barbering lectures. And I think that is the beauty, the influence and the gift that they hold to be able to educate and inspire the future generation of hairdressers, isn't it? It's an amazing...
Like you say, 3 decades later, I distinctly and clearly remember Mrs. Schofield, her voice, her tone of voice, the way she educated and trained, and the things that she instilled in me around standards.
Yeah, and
That's
that's so important, and that integrity and to the craft doesn't change, does it? So we've mentioned that 30 years. Is there a highlight? Is there a career highlight that stands out for you over that period?
I guess, yeah, I mean, that there's lots and so many, but you know, I guess one highlight was sitting in a fancy Park Lane hotel at the stroke of midnight, my mum next to me holding my hand, and being crowned the British Hairdresser of the Year. You know, for a lad from a working class council estate village in Barnsley, a traditional hairdressing apprentice, to actually have been nominated to be British Hairdresser of the Year. You can't enter it, you have to be nominated by peers in the industry. And then at the stroke of midnight, for them to call out your name and receive a standing ovation from 1,000 hairdressers sat in that ballroom. Oh, yeah, I mean, I still swear and think about that amazing moment. So that was definitely a highlight. You know, I've been very blessed to have worked with some incredible teams of people. You know, so currently I work as creative director for a hair extension brand called Raccoon. I also work as creative ambassador for a hair care brand called Kerner. And working with those teams of people and, you know, the work that we do together is definitely a highlight. And I think when you think about highlights in your career, it's not always about looking back, is it? It's around thinking about what's happening right now. And as you know, Nicola and Mark, that, you know, what I'm incredibly proud about is our collaboration of working together at VTCT. It's a huge badge of honor to me that Able has been recognized by VTCT. So I must tell you just one other highlight, and it goes back to my dear mum. Sorry, I'm having a mum moment. I lost my mum's best friend yesterday. She passed at the age of 86, and they were best buddies. So they'll be together kind of gossiping somewhere now, but there's this little story of my mum. So I successfully launched my own signature hair care brand, which was in the supermarket, and became a Great British export. It was exported around that kind of the world. And I remember going home to visit mum one day, and I said, I'll make the tea, and I opened the cupboard where the cups should be, and instead it was full of bottles of Andrew Barton shampoo. And I went, Mum, what's all this? And she went, oh, son, I go and buy one every single day. And I went, it's not going to make any difference to a brand that's sold in supermarkets across the world. But that was her pride, and you know, and I'm very proud of the upbringing that I had.
Yeah, that's a lovely sentiment. So you've touched on this, that Able and the partnership with VTCT, which yeah, we are equally as proud of, because we have recently accredited the Able program. But let's just rewind a little bit and kind of just talk to me. What is Able and why did you create it?
Okay, I'm sure nobody will be offended if I say a swear word, and I hope not. But the start point for Able, Andrew Barton London Education, and that abbreviation did come in a beer mat overnight in a pub one night. But the start point was I was just pissed off with how the industry berated further education colleges and lecturers. And it really frustrated me and annoyed me that it was perceived as a lower level of training, and salon training and an apprenticeship in a salon was better. And I didn't believe that. I knew that wasn't true. And, you know, through my work, I've had the privilege of working with some amazing further education lecturers, and they've motivated and inspired me over the years. So Able came from that annoyance and that frustration. And I thought, okay, so if there is a challenge here, if there is a situation, how about we create a bridge? How about we create a bridge for somebody who works in industry all the time around best practice? And how can I work with further education colleges to help and support what they are delivering. So that's where ABLE came from. It's a comprehensive 2-year-long scholarship program that colleges invest in, where I deliver training on site and through various training tools. It runs alongside the traditional training qualification and covers all of the elements of that 2-year kind of program. But it's my take on that. So it's everything from how I shampoo, how I cut hair, how I colour hair, how I set and blow dry hair, and also some of the softer skills like customer service and retail excellence. So that's what ABLE is. ABLE has got 3 very, very clear objectives. We have a website, and I know there's going to be information at the end of this morning about how you can contact me about ABLE as well. We also have a social media page, so give us a follow at Andrew Barton London Education. And we have 3 very, very clear objectives, which I get really excited about talking about. And the first one is to able the students that work with us and qualify during the program to be the best version of themselves and to be salon ready. Because I think, you know, often we do hear that story of that when students leave college, they're not always prepared for the world of work. So what ABLE does is has that real clear objective around that one pillar. Our second pillar then is about helping those students to become employable and get employed. You know, I say all the time to my ABLE students that we work with across the land, that I've got no interest in training students whose only aspiration is to charge £10 for a haircut in somebody's kitchen and put it in their back pocket. You know, what I'm interested in, and this is the third objective, is helping the students and supporting them through that training progress for aspirational careers and becoming successful in their careers. Just like I started as an apprentice in Barnsley and at a further education college. So there are 3 big objectives that we work on. I founded ABLE with a further education specialist who'd worked a long time in FE. So and also what's brilliant, which I think the lecturers will love hearing this as well, is it ticks every single box for CPD. And it also really unites those teams of lecturers in a college around the purpose and goal of the objectives of ABLE. So it unites lecturers around standards and quality delivery. So it's a unique program that there's nothing like it in the industry. So if anybody's interested, please get in touch. I'd love to get even more passionate on a one-to-one and tell you more about ABLE.
Yeah, and I think that the passion is there to see. It's, you know, you are quite rightly very passionate and also very proud of what you have created. I've had the pleasure of being kind of seen inside the program, so I can kind of echo the sentiment that it does tick all the boxes of kind of mirroring, and it's not to replace a qualification, it's to enhance, and it is that's a really nice way of explaining it, that industry bridge. So I think that's really valuable. And I think
also as well, excuse me, sorry, but it's also it makes the teaching, lecturing journey for a lecturer easier, because what we don't do is actually we don't put any extra burden on the lecturers to deliver. What we do is we create a series of teaching guides or lecturer guides that helps them to facilitate the program. So it really is a support tool. And, you know, all the ABLE colleges that we work with are excited because it's also a direct link to industry. You know, the wonderful thing is about ABLE, it's me. I'm the only person in the business. Do you mean? So it's a direct kind of customer service relationship as well. You don't have to go through my PR, my managing director, my marketing director. It's just me. So and it's me that delivers it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that again is an amazing, it is unique to the industry as well. So, and I think we've spoke about this on prior collectives, but as we have, and recently we have endorsed the programme, which means that VTCT have reviewed and done a quality sample on all of the work that has gone into creating the ABLE programme, and we have endorsed it. So it does have that quality mark of approval that means that it is, we recognise the value of it. So we're very proud of that. And I think it's probably worth adding at this stage that watch this space, because Andrew and I are coming out to hopefully, not hopefully, we will be, but this is a kind of early shout out to anybody who is on this call. We are looking for some venues to host an exclusive up close and personal, where you're not only going to see Andrew and I talking over a screen, but you're going to see us talking face to face. But most importantly, you are going to see the man himself creating some magic with hairdressing as well. So if anybody is interested in hosting an event for ABLE and VTCT, then please reach out to myself or to Andrew. The details are in the chat, and they will be sent out afterwards. So moving on with the questions. So
do we have to, because I just love talking about ABLE, do we have to move on?
I know. Well, we will kind of stay on that sort of theme, because we also have Barnton Bespoke. So just tell me a little bit about what is Barnton Bespoke and how does it differ from ABLE?
Okay, so I don't like mentioning that word COVID, but Barton Bespoke came as a thought and as an idea of mine during COVID, and when I realized that people were looking at online education, they were looking at how they could get education easier. So what Barton Bespoke is it's a 1 day or more days training service where I come to that college's venue and I present a day of training. So it's in salon, in college training with me at your home, wherever you are. And those days are tailor designed around your needs. It could be that you as a college just need some inspirational training for students. It could be that you just want to use and abuse me for a day for CPD. They're completely tailor designed around your needs, and they start off with a remote meeting or a phone call, and we discuss what the needs of the college are. And it's delivered in a really commercial, realistic way. What I'm proud about Barton Bespoke and ABLE is that because I work so closely with FE, I really understand the challenges and the demands that are kind of put on lecturers. So it's a beautiful, inspirational day of training where I come to your home.
Okay, so then that going back to ABLE, then as part of the programme, you do go into a college that is part of the ABLE programme, don't you? And you deliver. Is that something that's delivered to the lecturing staff? Is it delivered to the students? Is it delivered to them both? Like, kind of, how does that work?
Good question. So ABLE is an investment by the college on a 2-year contract. There are a variety, there's 10 different training tools that we offer as part of the package. That includes 2 days a year where I come to the college for a training event. It's up to the college how they use that training event. However, because ABLE is predominantly about teaching and training the students, it should really be student facing rather than lecturer facing. But on those days, I get the lecturers involved with those days as well. So they're with me. So it does tick off some CPD as my visit. And yeah, so that's kind of one of the big differences. You know, on Barton Bespoke, what I've noticed and found just recently is, you know, I went into a college for a Barton Bespoke just recently, and the whole day we coined the phrase Barton's blow dry boot camp, because there was this need and this necessity around blow drying skills, which I know many lecturers will be agreeing and writing in the answer box here, that, you know, it's an art and it's a skill that's almost died through kind of often people just pulling a straightening iron through the hair. So blow drying is kind of one of the content days that we can offer on Barton Bespoke. Or, you know, I'm also aware that there's a great need for short hair cutting as well. And I'm hearing that all the time. So again, Barton Bespoke is designed totally around the needs of the college.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when you say that they get on the ABLE program, they get 2 days per year, I assume that are they kind of planned to fit the college stroke what they want to do? Are they at incremental parts of the program? Is there any sort of specifics around that?
Absolutely. We would look at the curriculum kind of over that year program, and we agree together when's going to be the best time for me to be in college. And generally we spread it out. So it's the first visit and then it's another visit 6 months later. So there's a couple of appearances. The other thing that happens with ABLE as well is the college has the opportunity to completely market themselves as an ABLE partner, which means ABLE branding. So my face, my name all over the college and all over that department. So also what we found is with some of the ABLE clients that we work with, they've increased the number of apprentices in that area, that region, going to the college for their further education training. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. And it also kind of helps the college to really engage with local employers and salon owners. So it forges this deeper relationship to the community as well by having the ABLE program. And it fits and ticks all the boxes of the National Occupational Standards as well.
Yeah, I've had a question come through in the chat, Andrew, if you don't mind. It's from Wayne. I'm not quite sure where you're from, Wayne, so apologies. Wayne has asked, what else is involved in the 2-year program?
Okay, so there's 10 different training tools, and I'm not going to go into every single one right now, because we could be here hours for me to explain it all. But if somebody does want to reach out and contact me, then please do that, and we can explain. I can send you the full marketing pack, and I think we've got that available, haven't we, Nicola, to share? Yes, so we've got the marketing pack which describes everything, but it also includes the 2 visits a year from me, and also then a comprehensive video tutorial training of all of the aspects of the curriculum and the training. It's presented by me, and then we drip feed those through the curriculum year. They're also well done. They're also watermarked, so they can't be taken away from the college if a lecturer was to leave. And also the great thing is about ABLE from a marketing and PR perspective, for that specific college, we also build in a radius clause, so another college can't have the program within a certain mileage.
Oh, that's interesting. So it keeps that exclusivity and that point of difference, which I think would also help with, you talked about the increase in apprenticeship recruitment to colleges that have embarked on the ABLE program. So I think that would be that's a really interesting.
Absolutely, and I'll just add to that as well. I need to get all the points in. I'll just add to that as well. If a college is a multi-campus college, 3, 2, 4, 5 or more, then the whole of the campus can have ABLE as one package.
Okay, so do they need, this might be a technical question, is there like separate logins? Is there, how does the technical aspect of it work?
Absolutely, we deliver the logins kind of as part of the curriculum during the year. We also, as part of the toolkit, we have a book, you know, which is both online, but it's also in print version as well, because I still find a lot of the lecturers that I'm working with and talking to, people still enjoy print.
It's funny, you know, we've just been, I did an event last week and I was asked that very question. can we get a book? Because
Yeah.
people still do like a textbook. Yes, we've got to be mindful of sustainability and things, but I think particularly lecturers still, there's a desire for a book, isn't there?
Absolutely, and it's a great tool for the students because it can be referred to very easily without switching on a computer and without going through logins and passwords and etc. So we call it the Able Companion. What the
And do you sign it? Will you autograph it? Will you autograph it?
Yes, definitely, I'll autograph it. Yeah, and the Able Companion set out in black and white, you know, every single aspect of the syllabus, but also kind of around some of those softer skills and best practice. You know, the whole objective for me, I guess 3 decades in an industry, part of my future is all about legacy. And, you know, part of what Able's ambition is just to support these students and give them the best possible chance for an amazing, successful career in hairdressing. It's what I care really passionately about.
Yeah, you can tell that. Bravo. Does anyone, I'm just conscious of time now, we could talk for hours, Andrew. Does anyone have any further questions that they would like to pose to Andrew? If you're not comfortable coming on screen, please just type them in the box.
Just on Barton Bespoke there, Nicola, if anybody is interested in booking me for a visit to come to college, there's a couple of days left this year, pre-Christmas. And I'm already booking into the first half of next year. But yeah, just get in touch.
My goodness, you are a very, very, very busy man. Well, what we will do is we have the full Able marketing pack, which will be put into the chat now for everybody to look at in your own time. We will also be sending that out to you as part of the follow-up information that comes along with the slides and the presentation from today. Andrew, all your contact details are on there, aren't they? And you're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, your email address, all of those things are there. And I think what an opportunity to have somebody who is so passionate about this industry and has developed something that really does fit that FE market. And I think that's so refreshing to hear. We're very proud of working in partnership with you. I am very excited to get out there in real life with you. So more on that to follow. Any final words from you, Andrew, before I move on?
No, I again, just thank you for having me this morning. It's a pleasure. I've seen a couple of messages already appear on my Instagram as well. So thank you for that. And just get in touch. If you've not met me before, I hope this interview has helped you understand a bit about my world and what I'm passionate about. And, you know, I think sometimes in the industry, people become successful or get a name for themselves and they're high on this pillar of kind of far away. And, you know, I'm very proud of my northern working class roots and being humble and being grateful. I'm a nice guy, so get in contact.
Yeah, you really are one of the nicest in the industry that I've come across. It's been a real pleasure, Andrew, to have you join us today. I know you have a very busy day ahead. I know you have lots of hats that you wear, so you are off to transform some wonderful women's hair for the day. So yeah, our pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Christmas, and I will be in touch with you soon. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice, as well. Thank you. Yeah, there's lots of thank yous to you, Andrew, for your time as well. So, oh, Barnfield College, Wayne, thank you. Thank you for your question.
Okay, yeah, big thank you there, Andrew. It was great to have you on. Sorry, just to mention about Andrew's marketing pack, it will be sent out to you. Unfortunately, Zoom doesn't like to upload direct documents. It has to be links, so we will just make sure that you get that sent out. So don't worry about that. And also, I have put Andrew's contact details into the chat there. So if you want to contact him directly, do that as well. But that pack will be being sent out to you. So we move on. Sorry, Nicola.
No, I was just going to say, over to you.
Oh, thank you. So we move on to our next guest. And it's really great to have with us this morning Martine Ellis. Martine is coming all the way from Guernsey to us today. Her background is as an education consultant. She currently works as that, but she has over 15 years in the FE sector, in specifically specializing in learning and development. She's a chartered teacher. She has advanced teacher status, and she's also a fellow of the Education and Training Society. And with her background in productivity, well-being, and neurodiversity, we're really pleased to have Martine with us here today as she talks to us about those subjects. So over to you, Martine.
Thank you, Mark. And Mark, I gather you're going to be running my slides for me today. So I will just say, next slide, please, and we'll move things on. We'll go through the first few quite quickly. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's really lovely to be here. Thank you for that introduction, Mark. I really appreciate that. We'll zip through a couple of slides to the Who Am I slide, please. And as Mark has very correctly stated, my name's Martine Ellis. I'm a writer, educator, and consultant. If you're interested in stalking me online, I'm thoroughly okay with that. So go find me at martineellis.com. If you're interested in hearing from me on a monthly basis, you can do so by subscribing to my email newsletter, notesbymartine.com, and find me on Twitter. I spend way too much time on Twitter, which is ironic because I'm going to be talking to you about productivity shortly, but you can find me as Hey Martine Ellis on Twitter. Now, a little bit of background on me. Next slide, please, Mark. As Mark explained, I have 15 years experience in further education, but prior to that, I was in a finance role. I was a senior leader in finance. As Mark mentioned, I'm from Guernsey. I'm living in Guernsey in the Channel Islands. And one of our main industries is finance. So it's quite typical to end up in the finance sector. And I did 10 years in finance. By the age of 30, I'd made it to the board of directors. I had a glass corner office and a convertible and a fabulous salary. Honestly, it was like something out of Succession. It was quite something. But I had that kind of career-defining moment, I guess. I can remember sitting in my beautiful glass corner office with an amazing view of the harbour, going, what am I doing? So this was like an early midlife crisis for me, I think. I was age 30. To all intents and purposes, it looked like I was living the dream, but I couldn't kind of work out who I was helping in my job. Ultimately, I was helping rich people get richer, which totally okay with everyone else doing that. But for me, it didn't sit with my values quite right. So I made what at the time seemed like quite a bonkers career decision. A lot of things aligned and an opportunity came up to teach in further education. Now, I'd been a trainer throughout my career, so going into teaching wasn't completely off the wall, but it was fairly off the wall because I took a maternity cover contract for 1 year. So I went from boss to trainee in a matter of minutes, ultimately. So I started teaching in further education 15 years ago as an unqualified lecturer in office administration. I wasn't an administrator. I had a team of administrators, but it was my way in. And I did that first year. And it was, just think back to your first year of teaching for a moment. You know, from going from running an international finance company to being a trainee lecturer, it was a heck of a shock to the system. The biggest shock actually for me was working to a timetable. That was something else. I'd never experienced that in my life. Actually, I ended up loving that aspect of teaching. It became something that really worked for me in my brain. But the other thing that was the biggest shock to the system was the workload. So I was a director of a trust company. And the first year of teaching for me, I had never, ever been that busy in my entire life. Lecturers are the hardest working people I have ever met. So it was a huge shock to the system. On the plus side, I loved the teaching. And to this day, teaching is the best thing that I ever do. I love it so much. Something that underpinned that shock to the system, which I now know, is that at the time I was experiencing undiagnosed autism. I mean, I've been autistic all my life, but at the time I didn't know it. A couple of years ago, I got my autism diagnosis, and it was eye-opening, to say the least. It explained a lot of why that change was so very challenging. So that's a little bit of background on me. And it's one of the reasons that I write and speak and teach people about the concept of well-being driven productivity. But before I tell you about that, I want to just skim through a couple of very quick statistics to give you some background and context. So Mark, if you'd like to just move past that statistics slide, please. Thank you. The Teacher Wellbeing Index is a document I really recommend you have a look at. It's not a happy read, I can't lie. It is a survey of well over 3,000 educators across the UK from all sectors of education, and it gives a real sense of what well-being is like in that area right now in education. Now, interestingly, over the past 24 hours, they've released the 2023 version. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that you folks have that, so you've got the most up-to-date data. So just bear in mind, this data is the year before. However, the data is worse. It's a more distressing read this time around. So if we just nip onto the next slide, please, Mark. There's a couple of statistics slides. I really want to focus on giving you some tangible takeaways today. So I'm not going to spend masses of time here, but the messaging is 75% of the workforce is stressed. That's a big number. 3/4 of education staff are stressed. And if we nip onto the next slide, you can see some headlines there. I'm not going to read all of these out to you. I'm just going to pick out a couple. 78% experience poor mental health symptoms at work. So we're talking about things like feeling tearful, feeling anxious, not sleeping properly, not eating correctly because they're feeling. All of these are sort of classed as poor mental health symptoms. I think the next slide is probably one of the most shocking things that the report uncovers. So if we just move to the next slide, there's a mechanism that's used to calculate the well-being of individuals in the UK. And staff working in education are 44.01, which is lower than the rest of the UK. So there's not a pretty picture. And I don't share these things to worry you, to stress you out. I think it's important to know the context of why what I'm going to share with you next is so essential. So we'll move on to this thing that I mentioned. What is well-being driven productivity? Well, I'll tell you what it's not. Because the productivity world is filled with kind of people hustling and sort of working all the hours and just work is what they're all about. That's not what well-being driven productivity is. The word well-being is the little hint there. It's important to understand what it isn't, though. So on the next slide, Mark, you'll see a definition of something called toxic productivity. And that's this outsized desire to be productive at all times at the expense of all the other good stuff in your life, like your family and your hobbies and all of that important stuff. So well-being driven productivity is kind of the opposite. So on the next slide, Mark, if you could, thank you very much. Well-being driven productivity is about putting you, your needs, and your well-being first. It is not about saving time and using the time you save to do more work. It's actually about using that time for rest and recovery. It's about making space for well-being. Ultimately, to do well, personally and professionally, you've got to be well. And that's, if there's one thing you take away from today, I'd really like it to be that. To do well, you have to be well. And that's for your students, for, if you still work in a, hairdressing, barbering setting, for your clients, to do well, you have to be well. So we need to kind of get rid of this narrative that self-care is selfish. It absolutely isn't. You've got to put yourself first. So I'm going to share some tools and strategies that I use and I've encouraged other people to use that help them adopt this well-being first mindset. And the first one is, and you're going to hate me for saying it, boundaries. So actually, I've been a bit cheeky and I've put the definition of boundary on this slide. It's something that indicates or fixes a limit to it, or extent, sorry. And so when I'm talking about identifying and honoring your boundaries, I'm talking about that split between home and work, personal and professional. Where is your boundary there? And if you can name it and identify it, you're going to be more likely to honor it. So to give you some examples from my life, one way I create a boundary between home and work and business, because I have several boundaries that I have to have in place, is that I don't have my work emails on my personal mobile device. Now, I appreciate that particular strategy will not work for a lot of people, particularly if you have to travel for your work and things like that. I get that completely. But for me, one way I create a boundary is not having emails for work on my personal device. My personal device is for my personal stuff, entertainment, TikTok primarily. I can't lie. I'm human, right? But yeah, so no emails on my personal mobile device. I'm also really strict around working hours. So I currently work part-time for a charity running their education program at the moment. I am an education consultant part-time as well, and that's my business. And I also have paid writing that I do on a regular basis. So, there's like 3 facets to my professional life. And then there's my personal life as well. So I have to be super strict on my working hours. I track the time I do for certain things to make sure that the boundaries are in place. So one thing you can think about to help prioritize your well-being is where those boundaries sit. We're going to move on to the next slide, Mark, if that's okay. Thank you. This next one's a cracker. No is a complete sentence, okay? You don't have to say yes to everything. I can remember that first year of my teaching career where everything was bonkers and I got absolutely burnt out. I said yes to everything. I was in a new career. I was on a 1-year contract. I wanted to make sure that I had, a contract at the end of that year. I said yes to absolutely everything, and I didn't need to. If you say yes to everything, then you're not going to be able to do anything particularly well. You're going to be spread too thin. You have to be able to select the things that are the right things to say yes to. So with that in mind, learning to say no becomes absolutely essential. Now, I've got some examples of ways to say no on the slide. There won't be enough time to take you through all of them, but what I am going to do is supply you with some resources at the end of my talk, and there will be a blog post that I've written which explains all of those ways to say no. And if, I really want you to do one thing off the back of this particular talk, so it could be reading that blog post and practicing saying no. The one that I use quite a lot from this list, by the way, is no plus alternatives. So if I'm going to say no to something, I will say, no, I can't do that, but what I can do is this. That's one of my favorites, because you were really clearly saying no, but you're bringing it onto your terms to do what works for you. So that's one strategy that you can explore. And we'll go to the next slide. This is more of a mindset thing. By the way, if there's a brain in the corner of the slide, it's kind of more mindset-y. If there is a pencil and a ruler, it's more of a strategy to try out. So this one, I have suffered with perfectionism my entire life. And it's only over the past sort of 10 years, well, let me just think. No, I've done 15 years in FE. So I'd say probably over the past 10 years, like a third of the way into my FE career, I worked out that perfectionism wasn't helping me at all. And it was possible to adjust my ludicrously high standards of myself without anybody noticing. The only person who knew is me. So this idea of making progress over perfection, I think, is a really helpful mantra. And there's a link to working hours there, because if you're going for perfectionism, you're going to have to work all the hours to do that. But if you're kind of okay with B+ work, because B+ work is great, it's really good, then progress over perfection makes a lot of sense. So maybe reflect on your levels of perfectionism, what your expectations of yourself are. Is that something you could work on? Next slide, please, Mark. I'm going to give you a technique you can use to be incredibly productive, but also boundaried. If you've got some work to do, try the Pomodoro technique. This is one of my favorites. You need a timer, something like this. A kitchen timer is good. Not using your phone is better. And basically, you chunk your work up into 30-minute sections. 25 minutes of really focused, intense work where you've moved all the distractions out the way, and then you take a 5-minute break. And that is a Pomodoro. And what it does is it gets you into a state of flow more quickly. It stops the distractions. It helps you focus and is going to make you more efficient. So I wanted to make sure you had a real tangible strategy to take away with you. So you take a 5-minute break for every 25 minutes you work. And actually, forgive me, there's a slight typo. It should be 4 times 25 minutes. So once you've done 4 Pomodoros, so that's 2 hours worth of work effectively, you take a longer break. Now, if you're like me, perhaps you have a neurodivergent brain. When you're trying to be focused, stuff pops into your head all the time. You need to stay focused. So have a whiteboard next to you or a notepad and just scribble the thing on the whiteboard that's in your head, take it out and carry on. So there's a couple of really tangible productivity strategies there that you can try. The last one that I'm going to tell you about is time blocking. This is, next slide, please, Mark. This is how I run my day. I schedule absolutely everything on my calendar. So in my teaching role, that would have been lessons planning, breaks, meetings, marking. Yes, I said breaks. We take breaks. Wellbeing first, remember. If it's on the calendar, it gets done. Your commitments are super clear and you're able to keep an eye on that really big picture piece. What I used to find, particularly when I was teaching full time, is for some reason, I wouldn't put my lessons on my calendar. And so I never, ever had a really clear picture of the time I had available to do everything else. I think time blocking, scheduling the whole working day, including breaks, treat breaks as an appointment with yourself, really can help you prioritize your well-being and get stuff done and go home on time. That's what I think. The next slide, Mark, actually shows a sort of visual of what time blocking might look like for you. Okay, we're going to go for a recap slide now. Thank you. So those strategies that I whistled through super quick, I knew I had too many slides, were putting boundaries in place, saying no or deploying your yes with more care, adopting the progress over perfection mantra, trying out the Pomodoro technique, and exploring time blocking. So there's your recap, and I'm going to encourage you now to take some action. So a few slides ahead, please, Mark. Thank you. I encourage you to consider trying one of those tools or techniques, picking just one, because if there's too many, just try one. And commit to trying one over the next month, then reviewing your progress. Has it helped? Has it made a difference? If you want to pop in the chat what you're going to choose, that'd be wonderful. It'd be good to see what landed for you. Now on the next slide, if we can zip through, thank you. And the next slide. There's a little QR code there. I know these slides are going to be circulated, so you'll have access to this at a later date. So don't feel you have to sort of snap it straight away. That is a link to a little Wakelet that I've put together for you. If you've not used Wakelet before for collating resources, it's a fantastic teaching tool. And that has got a bunch of extra reading resources, all that good stuff around what I've been talking about today, this concept of wellbeing driven productivity. There's a short link at the bottom there, bit.ly/VTCT-HB. So you can find loads of extra reading, because I could have talked to you for hours about this, but I know it, and it had 20 minutes. So I've put together that pack for you, a little online pack, which you're more than welcome to go through. There's some contact details in there as well, if you want to contact me about anything. And that's it. That's me. I think I made 20 minutes there, folks. Pretty much bang on. Obviously, be happy to take any questions, and apologies for the crazy pace that I went through that at.
Yeah, so does anybody have any questions for Martine? You can either unmute yourself or you can type there in the chat box if there's anything specific there that you'd like to ask Martine with regards to productivity.
I noticed that Tracy has put in that she has said time blocking. Thank you for this. Yeah, anyone else got any of the thank you, Janet. That was
Time
so
blocking is
interesting.
fantastic. I would just say time blocking is an amazing strategy, because if your brain works in a similar way to mine, where having those boundaries around time helps, I really encourage it. And, you know, thinking about the environment that we're in, obviously, you know, as hairdressing and barbering professionals who've worked in industry before, you know, that is what your day looks like, right? You have client after client, and you know when your breaks are. You can run non-practical stuff that way too.
Janice has said, saying no. Thanks, Martine.
I give you permission. Say no.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Martine. And if anybody is
pleasure.
interested in having some consultancy workshops, then Martine is available to work with colleges specifically and training providers. And all the details will be attached to the slides that we're sending out. And we're getting some more comments.
There's lots coming through, isn't there?
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Adrian has said, I get washing machine head when not doing, spend time worrying what I have not done.
Yeah, very, very relatable. I have washing machine head too. Adrian, actually trying out the Pomodoro technique, if you can find a way to get rid of all those distractions, then you might find just the 25-minute kind of chunk, you're able to sort of zone in and get that done. So I would really recommend trying the Pomodoro technique.
Brilliant. And we've got Sally.
Yeah,
she says, I've used time blocking previously for some time, but for some reason I haven't used it this year. So you've got a month left to use it.
Amazing. And also there's a little video on that resource pack that I've put together, which goes through time blocking in a bit more detail than I did. So if anyone wants to try that, then the video might be helpful.
Progress. Perfectionism.
Progress.
Wayne says this has been very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Adrian, thank you, with a big smiley face. Anne-Marie, progress, not perfectionism. Yeah, that's really good mantra there. And Sharon, very useful. Anne-Marie, nice. Really interesting. So yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for all those comments, and
my pleasure.
Thank you there to Martine. That was really
thanks for having me.
No, pleasure. Thank you, Martine. And there's some references. We won't go through those now, but obviously they're things that can be picked up in the slides when we send those out. So over to you, Nicola.
Super. So as you've heard me say a few times today already, yes, we are going on tour, and we are starting next week in Newcastle. So if there's anyone on the call that's got tickets, then we are looking forward to seeing you, or on any of the events. Newcastle actually sold out in about, well, sold out, the tickets are complimentary. I think it sold out in record-breaking time, and we had to actually double the capacity. So, but we are very excited to just talk a little bit about who we joined with. So I think we talked on the last meeting about our consistent tour partners. So we have Wella Professionals, we have Belinda Mindset, and we have Janet Coates from Pivot Point. But on each venue, we will also be taking some fantastic hairdressing and barbering stars with us. So in Newcastle, we are joined by really amazing female barber, Vicky Smith, who is also an educator, very, very passionate about education and barbering combined. And we are also going to be joined by Dean Bradwell. So Dean Bradwell is very well known, particularly in the Northeast, hairdressing educator and salon owner. He actually trained as a barber and then moved into hairdressing, which is usually the opposite way around. Fantastic vivid specialist, so he's going to be demonstrating some cutting. And we are also going to be joined by Olivia Cunningham, and Olivia Cunningham is from Sebastian, the product company, as part of Wella Professionals, and she is going to be doing a blading demonstration and showing how razor cutting and blading can work on different hair types and textures. So we're very excited to see these guys in Newcastle. Then we go back up the country to my homeland, and we're going to be in Scotland, and we are going to be joined by the super talented Carol Black. Carol Black, female barber, and is also, if you are familiar with Kerry Blue from Human First, Carol Black is her business partner in their new project Affirmation. So really, really well-renowned, kind of well-worded on all things gender specific. And we are also going to be joined by Corin McNaughton, who is the current Scottish Female Stylist of the Year and this year's Wella Trend Vision Concept Visionary Award runner-up, and she's part of the Medusa artistic team, huge big Scottish organisation. And we will be joined on the rest of the tour by Richard Windle, and Richard Windle is the artistic director of Sebastian, and like Olivia, he is going to be demonstrating blading. So we've got a real diversity of practical skills that we're going to be demonstrating. And due to popular demand, we have added another 2 dates onto the tour, which tickets have just gone live on these now. Manchester has pretty much almost gone. So if you are in the area and want to get to Manchester, I suggest that you get onto Eventbrite pretty quickly and get your place booked. And then, so that's Tuesday, the 5th of December. And then the following week, on Monday, the 11th of December, we are going to be in the Wella World Studio. So if you are in any of those regions and want to get to those events, they're daytime. We've done them daytime so that you can hopefully, if required, if you want to bring your learners along with you. Alternatively, if you've got the scope and been able to attend, then that would be amazing. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you on any of these first 4 dates. And we then we move into, and I can't remember what's on the next slide, but we move on to the south of the country, and we will be in lots more venues that we will be announcing at the next meeting.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Nicola. So we have this little slot in the collective online where we have industry events. We've spoken obviously to Andrew this morning and talked about the ABLE partnership along with BTCT. But another organisation that BTCT work very closely with, because they do some absolutely fantastic barbering events in the country, is the Great British Barber Bash. And we have with us today Gary Spencer from who heads up the Great British Barber Bash. Gary is the founder of it, and he's joining us today, and he's just going to talk us through what they've been doing recently, and also some special events that they can be putting on for colleges. So just to say hi, Gary, how are you doing today?
Hello, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, very good.
I'm feeling quite inspired, actually, after listening to Andrew and that last lady. I thought, fantastic, brilliant.
Brilliant. So you're going to be doing some productivity exercises,
I'm going to be doing all that stuff. But we're busy anyway. We're always busy with the Barber Bash.
Yes.
We've got a ton of colleges we're visiting already for the early part of the year, from the Isle of Man to the Isle of Wight to all over the place. And a lot of the people on here probably have seen us before or might know a little bit about us. But obviously, we started off 10 years ago doing our major shows. We were just in Dublin at the weekend. We sold out our show in Temple Bar. There was 500 barbers in attendance there. And our next big one is London in March. So we're really looking forward to that. And there's loads of work going to start going into that already. But what we're really speaking about today is what we do with colleges. Again, some people might know that about 7 years ago, we were asked to go into colleges to do CPD or, attend and work with the educators. And we came up with the idea of going in, doing the CPD, but doing a mini show at night time, a mini Barber Bash with 3 members of the team, very sort of upbeat, very inspirational, very on-trend haircuts being shown. And that sort of took off before COVID. We were doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those shows. Well, it's back up and running again now. As I say, we're all over the place with those shows. And again, the beauty of those events is if we sell our tickets to the evening event, they don't actually cost the college anything. So you get your free afternoon and you get a really inspirational day with our team. So we've got loads of those plans for New Year. And we're also going into colleges doing look and learns as well. They're very, very popular. We're in Boston and we're in North Notts College doing look and learns with both barbers and hairdressers, because the hairdressers love seeing what's happening in the barbering world as well, So we've got tons of things happening with all that. But we're doing a special offer for VTCT people, or people associated with VTCT. And what we have is we have an online platform called Barber Club. And in Barber Club, you see 2 live demonstrations each week by a whole host of barbers that work with us. It's actually £5 a week to be a member, but we're going to be giving 10 weeks away free. So 10 weeks of Barber Club totally free to all your students, for anybody who books us for an education day, whether it's a look and learn or a showcase event. They're going to get 10 weeks of Barber Club totally free. So these are videos they can watch live and ask questions. But if they don't have time to watch them live, they can rewatch them for, I think, up to 10 weeks. And again, it's really cool because all the barbers are varied in there. They're from different parts of the country. Some are from America. So it's a really inspirational education tool. I'm not sure whether you've actually seen any of those, Mark, but you've definitely seen some of our shows and you know what they're like. So yeah, lots of exciting things happening with us.
Absolutely, yeah, no, and that's really brilliant because yeah, I've been to your shows, as you know, Gary, and I love the fact that obviously colleges can get that free CPD in the afternoon for putting on the event in the evening. And as I often mention to colleges, it's a fantastic way of being able to engage with your local employers as well. And we know that, you know, that's what one of the things that Ofsted are looking for, is that kind of that relationship that you've got with your local employer. So it's a really great event for that. So what I'm going to do, Gary, is I'm going to pop your contact details into the chat there. So that's your email address there and your direct mobile number. And if there's anybody on the call today that is interested in having a chat about the different types of offers that Gary has, and obviously there's that offer for VTCT centres, and for anybody that's here today that books an event, of getting those free 10 weeks for every student, then please contact Gary directly on the email or call him on the mobile. Brilliant. Thank you, Gary.
Can I just mention, Mark, as well, that we are doing, we've been supplying kits to many colleges over the last 5 or 6 years. And next year, our big change, or our big quantum leap, is we're starting to offer hairdressing kits as well. And all our kits come with free education. So if you're a barber, you get the free Barber Club. You also get a visit from us if you purchase X amount of kits. And again, we're going to be doing exactly the same with hairdressing as well. So anybody who wants to know anything about that, hit me up. You can get me on LinkedIn now, because Mark's got me on LinkedIn, which is fantastic. So get me on LinkedIn, get me on Facebook, get me on Instagram. Check us out on there, because we've got, you know, tons of followers. We're very active on social media, but also just feel free to call me at any time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Gary. Great to have you on, and look forward to catching up at your next big event. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, well, that is bringing us towards the end of today's event. Just to kind of recap, we had the fantastic Andrew Barton, who talked about his ABLE program with Nicola, and his marketing booklet. We will be sending that out. And also we had Martine's details. If you're interested in contacting her, they'll be part of the slides as well. And our next meeting, we're not going to be having one in December, because obviously that's going to be a really, really busy month. So we look forward to either seeing you at the collective live events in Newcastle and Glasgow. But then if we don't get to see you on those, then from us both, we're looking forward to seeing you in January. Nicola.
Yeah, and I was just going to say to everybody, the collective is your community, and if there are any guest artists or topics or subjects or people that you would like to hear from, then please let us know, because we really want to make sure that we continue to build the community and the guest speakers with information and people that are relevant to you guys. So you know how to get in touch with us. You all have all our contact details. Drop us a message on our socials even, and yeah, we would love to try and get the people that you want. So yeah, thank you, and Go on and have a great day, everybody, and we will look forward to seeing you all in the new year.
And if we don't
Thank
see
you for joining
before,
us, Janice. Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks
and if
again,
we don't see
Adrian,
you
as
before,
well.
have a great Christmas.
Okay, thanks, everybody.